4B here, which requires you having a perfectly completed job 4, or else this is not going to work. So make sure you have that done perfectly. If you need to watch the video, go ahead and do that. So this is going to deal with creating a couple of charts. So the very first one we need is to get all of this Q2 data except for the overseas, and when we're doing charts we never ever include the total column, so we're going to leave that alone. So we're going to take all of our data from Q2 except for overseas, so we'll stop right at the Northwest Territories. Perfect. So we have our data, now we just want our labels, which are obviously these things over here. So if I just went to go highlight them, obviously my other highlight is going to go away. So how do we solve that? Well, if we highlight this and we want to highlight something else as well, we can hold down the Control key on our keyboard. So hold that down, and then we can highlight two things at once. Perfect. Now we have our data, we have our labels, and we are good to go. So let's go up to our Insert, and then we will add a column graph. So all of your graphs are going to be right here for you. We'll go to our bar or our column, and we have our Q2 here, and it has all of my different provinces, it has my sales, and it has my title. And let's just make sure that's exactly what we want, because it's very easy to add other things here to it. And for this example, we're going to need to add something. So we're going to go to Add Chart Element, and we're going to look at adding some titles, specifically some things on our axis. So we go to Add Chart Element, Axis Titles, and let's start with our horizontal one. So this is what we're going to put on the bottom here, and it says we need to put the word province. So perfect, we have province in there. And the other thing we need to add, if I click back on the chart, I'll be able to access this. I'll go to Add Chart Element, and I will go to my axis title, and I'll go to Primary Vertical. And here I can write in sales with a little money sign, so we know exactly what we need to do. Okay. Now it says we also need to change this title up here, and this should be Sales by Province in Q2. And that is our first one. Excellent. So what I'm going to do, I want to get this out of the way, and what I can actually do, which is a very good trick, is if you go up here it says Move Chart, and that's exactly what I want to do. So under the Chart Design, I'm going to go to Move Chart, and I actually want to make it a brand new sheet. So I'm going to click on New Sheet, and maybe I'll call this Sales by Province. So watch what happens here. So I'll click OK, and now it moves it to the bottom on this brand new tab by itself, gives it a nice full screen view, and it looks really nice. So I'll go back to my sheet 1, it's no longer there because I moved it, and we can try the next thing. So the next thing, it says we need a line graph that shows the yearly sales for New Brunswick, Yukon, and what's the other one? British Columbia. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we want the yearly sales. Remember, we never want to include our total here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to highlight New Brunswick, and remember we can hold down the Control key, Yukon, and British Columbia without highlighting that total thing there. So we're going to go to Insert, and then we're going to go to Insert a line graph. So I'll click on a line graph. Looks good. Perfect. So now I have 3 different line graphs all on the same chart. And just like before, I can go ahead and I can add some things to it. So I'll add my primary horizontal, and I'll add my primary vertical. And again, they call for sales. And on the bottom, it's going to be based on my quarter that I'm in. Perfect. I'm going to change my chart title up here to yearly sales. And we're looking good. So the only other thing you might notice, and this is where we start getting a little complicated here, is we have this quarter and it says 1, 2, 3, 4. But what if I wanted to actually say all of these things up here? Well, let me show you how to do that. So we can actually right click on this, and I'm going to go to Select Data. Stay with me here. And you get this crazy thing going on here. And I don't want you to pay too much attention to that because we don't need to know too much about that right now. But what we do want is we want to figure out, okay, what's our horizontal axis labels, this 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So if I hit this little box, it's actually going to allow me to pick whatever I want to choose to put on the bottom. So I'm going to hit this little box, and then I'm going to just highlight the things that I want to go on the bottom there. And I'll just click this to get it back to full screen. Perfect. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit OK, and now you know it changes to quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. So if you ever need to exactly pick what you want to put on your axis, that's a really good way to do it. So I still have some work to do on this, so I'm going to move this chart out of the way. I'm going to make it a new sheet, and I'm going to call it yearly sales for BC, Yukon, and New Brunswick. Perfect. So we got that, nice little graph. And now we get into the part 3 of this challenge, where we need our maximum, minimum, and average. Great. So we have this ready to go, and now we just need to look at how do we figure out the formula here. So we want to take a look. The maximum is going to take a look at all of our data here, and it's going to figure out, okay, well, what's the biggest number, and then it's going to display that to me. So we have a formula, and our very first formula we are going to be using is our maximum. So we're going to use equal sign, and that tells Microsoft Excel that we're about to use a formula. So we're going to type in the word max, and then we get to, you can even just click on this, so double click that. It's going to allow us to pick whatever cells we want to analyze. Now we want to analyze all of those, but we definitely don't want to analyze our total column. So we'll do that. So max B2 all the way with that colon means to B14. I'll hit enter, and it pulls out the biggest one, which was this. Yeah, there's no other bigger number than that. So I don't want to do all that work all over again, so I'm going to do that all the way across to that. Perfect. All right, and now for minimum, you're going to do the exact same thing, equals min, and you can hit either double click on it or just hit tab, which I like to do. And I'll do the same thing. I'll highlight the ones that I'm interested in, everything except for total, and then I'll just hit enter, and 0. Well, where'd that come from? Yep, Northwest Territories had 0 in that quarter, so that makes sense that it's the smallest value. And I'll drag that all the way across. And the last thing we'll do is average. So I'll do equals, and I'll just start typing the word average, perfect. So I'll hit that tab, and then I'll do the exact same thing. I want to take the average of all of these things, hit enter, and that was my average for the quarter for all the provinces. And I'll just drag my fill handle across, and I'll end up with that. So a fairly complicated job, but a very good one at that. That's job 4B.